we sat down and we cried when we remembered Jerusalem. We were sick, Lord, near to dying. Oh,
Shalom, shalom, family, and welcome to another Tanakh review. My name is Zurishaddai, one of the teachers of Congregation BINAH, CHOKMAH, located in the Red Hood section of Brooklyn, New York, giving all honor, glory, and praise to the Most High, King of the universe, for life, food, clothing, and shelter, the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Thanking the Creator for my life and the life of all of you, praying that the Most High God will continue to bless each and every one of you. And I pray that the Creator of heaven and earth will continue to grant us life, peace, blessings, all the things that we desire in righteousness. It is always good to be in the land of the living, so we thank God for our lives, and we pray that the Creator of heaven and earth will continue to watch over us and protect us. So we had a rough week here in New York City. We had a lot of snow, a lot of ice still remaining from a storm that we had. So we roughed it out. We have a lot of single digits temperature. But for those of you who listen to us who are in New York City or any part of the East Coast that's facing this severe cold front, we pray that you stay safe and that the Most High God will continue to bless you. And if you don't need to go outside, don't go outside. If you need to go outside, please be careful as you step out and there's a lot of ice and, you know, as you drive in and things of that nature. It's best to use wisdom in situations like this rather than to go outside and hurt yourself. So pray that the Most High God be with all of you, the elders in particular, that the Most High God protect you and guide you. And to the young people, be careful. A lot of times you want to go out there in your cars and you feel like you got a four-wheel drive slip and slide too on ice. So just be careful and use wisdom in everything that you do. So we're going to move straight ahead. In today's portion, we're going to go over the portion of Beshalach. And for that, I'll pass it on to one of my teachers and one of my mentors, Nasik Zurishaddai ben Yehudah. How are you, Nasik?
All right, great. First of all, I'd like to praise to the supreme intelligence of the universe, God of my forefathers, God of Abraham, God of Isaac, and God of Jacob. And due respect to the platform on D.C.B channel platform, spiritual lead chief Prince Yeriel ben Yasaska, to the host chief of Zael, to the Princess Chiefs Kohanim, Rabbinate, Maureen, brothers and sisters and visitors to the channel. I greet you all in the tongue of my forefathers. Shalom Aleichem and the early Shabbat Shalom. And I'd like to start with Adonai, Septai Di Takupiyati Tilateaka, O Lord, my lips, my mouth shall declare thy praise. As Chief Uzal was saying, I think some of that, they say cold air settles. So down here where I'm at in Florida, this actually Sunday morning, we got 22 degrees. That's in the northern part of Florida. So, and our high only going to be 44. So, but one thing on the bright side about the cold and the frigid temperatures is that it make people bond together. And that's similar to what we're going to get into when we talk about the Exodus story. You know, because people going to have to bond together, sometimes for good, sometimes for bad, but they're going to bond together when conditions outside of themselves tend to say, okay, we had the same problem, so we're going to be forced and tied together in it. So that's one of the good things, because I know, especially growing up in being raised in New York City myself, that if it wasn't for frigid cold days, most people won't have any time to sit around and have a family meeting or a family dinner, or family conversations going on and fellowshipping with your own immediate family. Everybody got their unique friends and people, things they like to do. So New York City being a fast city, which we consider the term get this done in New York minute, we tend to be outward. But one of the blessings is that when it's cold outside, then you come inside. And one of the metaphors is that sometimes when things start acting up outside, you start to focus inside. So it's a lot of subliminal messages that could be taught at this particular point in time in the seasons. So we thank God that we're able to endure and live through the seasons that we have in there, and each one supposed to be a lesson for us and for our growth and edification. So that being said, I'd like to also address, I only had one question pretty much. Brother Don, J. Don Israel, he do a lot of studying, so a lot of times when he asks the questions, most times I believe he really has pretty much the answer himself. But the question I would share, which is a valid question because that's a question that's still on the table amongst most commentaries and scholars, is that who was the Pharaoh during the Exodus? Now some say that most, but the most majority would say that it might have been Ramses II, because of the city Ramses mentioned there, and then the most more scrutinized and faction would say, Amenhotep II, which they support their point with Amenhotep II, who lived during the 15th century BCE, before Common Era. And the reason they tend to focus on Amenhotep II is because they say that when from his mummy, that he had lesions on his body. So one of the plagues is about boils and stuff like that. We having lice and whatever else going on, so that would affect your body, immensely. So this is one of the reasons why they tend to lean more, a few on Amenhotep II as opposed to Ramses III in that sense. All right. So I'll leave it up to you, decide which one it is, that your favorite. Because, like I said, a lot at one time go for Ramses II, and some go for Amenhotep. Ramses III, Amenhotep II. So, and then it's another view. I haven't yet to get to my friend on reference to that. That's really literally a historian in Egyptian history. But he mentions a particular pharaoh, but whose body was never, remains were never found. So it's always those different questions that come up, so as it stands now, I would lean to the latter. That's what I would lean to, only because of what they say. Now, time period is always a question to involve. So that's another area of discussion. But since I'm not here to discuss Egyptian history per se, and I humbly admit that's not my forte. So I do what I'm a little bit more comfortable with doing, is speaking on the different citrals. So, and that's what I'll be dealing with. And one of the things that in this particular period of time that we left off, we're going to the portion of Beshalach. And Beshalach, in most books, is translated that, and it came to pass when Pharaoh had let the people go. All right, that's how it's translated. But we was actually thrust out, sent out of Egypt. Like I said, we were thrust out. It wasn't a thing, well, okay. No, you're taking too long. You got to get up out of it. read where earlier it was urgent upon the people. Excuse me. And so that starts at the 13th chapter, the 17th verse in the Masoretic text, and it continues all the way to the end of the 17th chapter before we go to another area. Now, what's every now and then I like to remind people that chapters and verses is not really Hebraic in a sense. That's not how the Chumash on the scrolls and for the first 5 books is actually written. There's actually written in what we call sidros. Now, most people would say parsha, and that's going to bring that up every now and then because every now and then you hear it's not a problem, but a parsha is used today as saying, well, we're in this portion of Beshalach, or we're in a portion of Bo, we're in a portion of Shemot, we're in a portion of Wayaki or Wayagash, stuff like that. And then they said the parsha, what it is, that. Well, that's used today and acceptable today, but it's not actually accurate. Now, chapters and verses was done by the Christian monks, and I mentioned that before in a couple of my teachings, and the actual parsha or parshiot, let's just say, actually the breakdown between readings, spaces within within a particular reading. So in other words, if you're talking about the area of say we are going to Beshalach, then it's broken down in 7 sections, and those 7 sections, and that's basically why you have people in those follow the traditional view call people up to read out the scroll. They usually call 7. The Maftir technically reads what the 7th one read, but towards the end. None of those had a name. So when you say the Parsha of Beshalach, we accept it, but it's no Parsha that has a name. It's actually a sidra, which means order. So does a sidra have a name? Now, parshas have what you call opening and close, areas. When you talk about the spaces, when you look in the scroll, when the guy raised it up, do a hagbach in that area. So I just figured I'd just share that going forward, once again, and so that when people hear me say, the sidra, then I'm talking about the actual heading of that portion that contains 7 parshios. A parshios 1, parshios the plural. So it contains 7 of those before I can get to another sidra. So, basically you have about 53, maybe 54 sidros that you have within the first 5 books. All right. And this, like I said, depending on the county and how it's separated, but I figure I share that, because when I had discussions about it from time to time, and even currently, so I figure I'd just share that again. But everybody understand when you say the parsha of Beshalach, everybody understand that. Go to first reader is reading the parsha, but he's gonna stop at a certain part, but it's under that. But the segment and that's why when you come to chapters in there, sometimes the Masoretic text chapters don't always fully align. You know, I mean, the Christian text, King James, don't always fully align with that, but we find that it become beneficial to use chapters and verses. So here, even in the Masoretic text, when they print a regular book, such as I'm reading out of now, in various languages, and even in Hebrew, you know, Hebrew itself, then they use chapters and verses because it was forced into it, basically, by Christians, and they found it to be convenient. But because that way they could just, you know, they say forced into it in the sense that when it comes down to debate, they need to know that are we on the same spot, you know, or close to the same spot when we have the discussions on different things within the first 5 books. And that's why you will see it all the time, whether it's JPS or a regular Schofield or something like that there, you know, or whatever, you know, Stone editions and stuff, you'll see verses and chapters in the book, but we don't have it. And even then, we'll say a perek or a pasuk, you know, for chapters or verses. We have a Hebrew term, we use that perek or pasuk. But that's actually is as referred to as we accepted certain conveniences in discussion. But originally, I want to make sure, you know, I share those terms. All right, so as we go back, I left off before because so much stuff going on in both. All right, but one of the things we were talking about the Passover and the death of the firstborn, and one of the things I left off that as we get down to the 40th, I'm just going back a little bit, the 12th chapter of Exodus, and I'll pick it up around the 43rd verse of the Masoretic text in the 12th chapter. And the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, this is the ordinance of the Passover. There shall no alien eat thereof, but every man's servant that is brought for money, when thou hast circumcised him, then shall he eat thereof. A sojourner and a hired servant shall not eat thereof. In one house shall it be eaten. Thou shalt not carry forth aught of the flesh abhorred out of the house, neither shall ye break a bone thereof. All the congregation shall keep it. And when a stranger shall sojourn with thee, and will keep the Passover to the Lord, let all his males be circumcised, and then let him come near and keep it. And he shall be as one that is born in the land, but no uncircumcised person shall eat thereof. One Lord shall be to him that is homeborn, and unto the stranger that sojourneth amongst you. Thus did all the children of Israel, as the Lord commanded Moses and Aaron, so did they. Now, the reason I want to go over that, I think I spoke briefly on it last week, is if a person that's a stranger want to keep it and circumcise himself, then then all right, he's accepted as one that's born. All right. Now, why I would say one law should be for the homeborn as well as for the stranger? And in that sense, he's actually looked upon as a citizen of the nation of Israel by that point, praising God for the redemption. So much so that when we get into the next sidra after Beshalach, that you got the sidra called Yisrael. And it's very interesting, which I don't want to go into now, but he himself, though this family tree is from the descendants of Abraham, is, he is accepted amongst the nation of Israel. And this is one of the major things that we look at in that area. So it's saying that a stranger, once a person come in, you don't constantly remind them, oh man, you was an Egyptian, or you was a Babylonian, or you was a Syrian, or something to that nature. Once they follow this way of life, accept this God, then he's actually accepted into the family full-fledged. And now there's a lot of discussion amongst rabbinic literature and traditions, which I'm not going to go into now. But we have certain regulations that's developed later on about marriages and stuff. So that's another area. And that even comes up later on after the Babylonian return. So in the 51st verse, and I want to also focus on in that area that everyone there actually complied that was around at that time. That means that it was no such thing as some Israelites say, I'm not doing that. Every Israelite that was alive in Goshen, in that area, complied with that edict of a Passover. So now, this ritual meal that we're supposed to eat, and eat in haste. And like I said, not to be too comfortable. And it came to pass the same thing that the Lord did bring the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt by their hosts. Now, what's interesting to say, did we actually leave completely the territory of Egypt? No. So what do that actually mean? And there's a lot of discussions on it, but I just want to bring that out because it's evidence. As we go further on, we still spend some time in the territory in the very land of Egypt. And it goes on in the 13th chapter, and it says, and the Lord spoke unto Moses, saying, sanctify unto me all the firstborns, whosoever opened the womb among the children of Israel, both a man and a beast, is mine. So now it doesn't make a distinction, male or female, right here. Whether it's of the beast or mankind, it just say all, but it doesn't literally make a clear distinction on that. And we know, according to the Hebrew language, you always tend to use the masculine gender if it's 100 women in a room and one male in a room, and all of them there together, and you want to address all of them about a certain subject matter, then you would use the masculine. Those 100 females, you would use the masculine. Now, is that, patriarchal bias? I know I can't answer that for you. All I can say is that's what's being done, and that's normally the grammatical rules. As we get into the third verse of that, and it said, and Moses said unto the people, remember this day in which you came up out of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. For by strength of the hand of the Lord brought you out from this place. There shall no leavened bread be eaten. This day ye shall go forth in the month of Abib. And it shall be when the Lord shall bring thee into the land of the Canaanites, and the Hittites, and the Amorites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites, which he swore to thy fathers to give thee a land flowing with milk and honey, that thou shalt keep this service in this month 7 days, and shall eat unleavened bread, and the seventh day shall be a feast to the Lord. Unleavened bread shall be eaten throughout the 7 days, and there shall no leavened bread be seen with thee, neither shall there be leaven seen with thee in all thy borders. And thou shalt tell thy son in that day, saying, it is because of that which the Lord did for me when I came forth out of Egypt, and it shall be for a sign unto thee upon thy hand. Now, this verse here is actually where they base time to filling on, when it says, shall be a sign upon thy hand. So that's why those that wrap what they call a tefillin, the black leather straps, and with a box on the bicep and box on the forehead, or the shell roche, as they call it, on the forehead. They base it on that. They don't tell you exactly, explain, elaborate what that means, how it's done, or what it means. This is a rabbinic tradition that's taken and extrapolated from there. And it says, and for a moment between our eyes, that the law of the Lord may be in thy mouth. With a strong hand hath the Lord brought thee out of the land of Egypt. Thou shalt therefore keep this ordinance in this season from year to year. So I mentioned the month of Aviv, which means a spring or budding, green year. And as most people, some people that might, use different formulas, Aviv, and father of 12, which is, Av, at the first two letters, and then, and then, to write the word, Yod, which would be the number 12. So they use that in a sense, and we talk about 12 months, basically. There's a lot of things. I don't want to run off into those areas like that, in this particular time that I'm lecturing and sharing information. But there's a lot of things that base that on. But one thing is that it must be in the season of spring. That is clear cut, and that we was introduced about a month at this particular point. The first thing rule against the nation is observing a particular month, a lunar month. And talking about when you see the moon in this fashion, which I elaborated last time on. So now, if it's talking about a lunar month, and when you see the moon in this fashion, then we know the moon don't have exact days, and for a solid 30 days and everything like that. So and it's not exactly, it's little fractions in between 29 and a half plus so many hours between Rosh, between a Rosh Chodesh, a moon cycle. So if those fractions is left within us to make sure. It doesn't tell you how to cite it, but we had people, like I mentioned last time, that had the skills, and you had people around that you could consult when God, that really had communication with the Creator at that time. So this is some of the things that's brought within this area here. Also, and let you know that the Lord brought us out of the land of Egypt, not Moses, the Creator. And though Moses was sent to lead, but it was not in his power to bring us out. And we must always remember that. He sent as a lead, him, Aaron. Then later on we find out Miriam was sent to do certain things as well. But as leaders, but not the source. All right, so we must always bear that in mind, because that became a problem later on when they thought Moses was actually the source. All right, so and what's interesting is that it goes on and finishes out. I'm gonna finish this particular portion out. And shall be when the Lord shall bring thee into the land of Canaan, as he swore unto thee and to thy fathers, and shall give it thee, that thou shalt set apart unto the Lord all that open the womb, every firstling that is a male. Now it's specified here, which thou hast coming of beasts shall be the Lord, and every firstling of an ass thou shalt redeem with a lamb, and if thou wilt not redeem it, then thou shalt break its neck. And all the firstborn of man among the sons thou shalt redeem. Shalt thou redeem. And it shall be, when thy son asketh thee in time to come, saying, What is this? That thou shalt say unto him, By strength of hand the Lord brought us out from Egypt, from the house of bondage. And it came to pass, when Pharaoh would hardly let us go, that the Lord slew all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both the firstborn of man and the firstborn of beast. Therefore I sacrifice to the Lord all that openeth the womb, being male, but all the firstborn of my sons I redeem. And it shall be for a sign upon thy hand, and it shall be front between thy eyes. For by strength of hand the Lord brought us out of Egypt. Now, here we go to talk about the tefillin in the last verse there. Also, it focuses on males. So that means if the first to open up a matrix is a female, then is she's less valuable in that sense? And that's where sometimes people get this view of sex, being sexist in that sense, because at first it don't make a difference, and then later on it focuses on a difference, and it says males only. So now brings out another thought, that in the night that the Creator went through the land of Egypt, smiting all the firstborn of Egypt, that means that every place had actually a male only. There was a male in every house, a male of every beast. And what are the odds that every place, people, we know people been having problems with having children and stuff like that. But what are the odds, that every place in the nation amongst the opposition, such as the Egyptians and foreigners that wasn't Israelites, had a male in the house, whether it's wealthy or poor, any animal, and then that area there, and then there's only one unclean animal that specifies about redeeming, which is a donkey. And you say, why that? And what's the issue? And it said with a clean animal. God said, take him, but you can redeem him with a clean animal, because a donkey is worth more than a lamb. But if you don't, break his neck. I don't need him. And you say, wow, you don't need him. Then if the Creator said you don't need him in that area, for the service of God, you notice that later on, and I'm just going, down the road, when we built the Mishkan and they had the dedications, that they brought 6 wagons and 12 oxen from the tribes of Israel. Clean animals, strong animals, but everything else was left to man labor. And that was the princes come up with that. God never told them to bring that up, but since they brought it, God accepted it. But prior to them princes bringing up those the oxen and dedicated to him for the use of the transportation of the Mishkan, that in itself, was never specified by the Creator. This was their own, for us, dedication. So this is something to consider and discuss more so with your teachers in that area there. They only mentioned about a donkey in this area here and being redemption. There's a lot of commentaries on it too, but I don't want to go into that as of now. And then let me also point out now, what we learn in this area here is, why do we eat unleavened bread? In that sense, why do we eat it? And it will come up a little bit more later on, and they talk about cleaning, and in the future, cleaning out all the leaven out of our borders in the future. So it's saying that this one-time event, we're supposed to have a memorial of that event every year. But when they're talking about clean all the leaven out your borders, then that means you got to have some territory. You got to own something. The houses that was in Egypt, you no longer own. That first night, it wasn't a requirement to make sure that you had no leavening in the house. It was no requirement on the first night. Yet, you was told to prepare and have everything ready. By the 10th day, you had a lamb, and the 14th day, you was to sacrifice and eat it, that night in a certain fashion. So you was told all that, but it didn't say how the house should be. It didn't say, do I got, some baked bread laying on the sideline? None of that. All right. And the thing is that when we left, and we had time to get the spoils of Egypt in that sense. So then there's a lot of miracles going to take place at this particular time. And I'm going to Beshalach, and I will come back to that point. So Beshalach itself means we, like I said, we're sent out, thrust out. But I'm going to read the opening parts because I want to highlight a couple of things in here. And it came to pass when Pharaoh had let the people go, that God led them not by the way of the land of the Philistines, although that was near. For God said, lest peradventure the people repent when they see war, and they return to Egypt. Now, this is something. God that we serve don't have to guess. God we serve don't have to speculate. The God we serve don't have to lie. But in the most gentlest fashion, said, lest they see war. Not even that they end the war, but lest they see war. They'll turn back. And it mentions the Philistines, a warlike people. What we understand, and the Philistines basically, as I mentioned before, they had garrisons in that land, but they're not in the land of Canaan, but they really originally wasn't from the land of Canaan from historical view. They say from the Isles of Crete. So more like a sea people, and they was conquerors and warlike. So, and Egyptian speaks about them as well. So in the history. So now, when it mentions that, what is saying? That they see war and repent. And then you understand why we had to leave quickly. Because once we got settled, what we know is Egypt. We might say, we stay here too long. We might want to stick around. We like this. This is what we know. For the most of us, this is all we know. We know nothing about the land of Canaan except what people told us. We know we came out here because Canaan wasn't all that great. Why now, later on, that God telling the people, I'm going to bring you into the land flowing with milk and honey, when it wasn't a land of milk and honey in the time of the patriarchs. All three of the patriarchs, Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, all of them experienced a famine in that land. But yet, they talk about a land that flowed with milk and honey. Hence, we've been here for a while. Now, all of a sudden, how that land changed, in a sense, when we live in large in an empire. So, this is some of the things the Creator used at this particular point in time to tell the people that you leaving and going to a place that's better than when you at. But sometimes we cannot see that where we at is not as good as what we can get. We become complacent in certain areas. And so also when we get into the book of Chronicles, you go to First Chronicles 7th chapter, well, about I believe it's the 20 verse, and somewhere along there when it talks about Ephraim. Some people broke out early from Egypt. They left early, and that's mainly from the tribe of Ephraim. And they come back into the land and got beat down, including, some of the top guys of the tribe of Ephraim. And from that point on, if you see the Philistines fighting, and the way the book of the Chronicles make it look, that they came back to try to take over and house stuff. But when we get ready to go in the land, we coming over to take over and house stuff when we get ready to cross over. So when we read in the book of Chronicles about a particular tribe, not commissioned by a creator, go there, and it describes as try to steal instead of try to, conquer and conquest. It brings out a whole nother scenario, in that area that that all of them, they was actually, slaughtered. So that would linger in the minds of the other people, because Ephraim was, one of the leading tribes at that time. And we're going to find in this particular portion that Ephraim was known to be a leading tribe, because the first general we're going to read about that's selected, who's introduced to us for the first time, is Yehoshua. All right? And he happened to be out the tribe of Ephraim. So I just want to bring a few more things out as well. Is that as they go through this area here, that we have a rallying point. We don't leave absent. But one of the things we want to say, we look tough when we left out. We left out with our arm. So we look like we're an army. We look like we organized. All right. And in the 19th verse, and Moses took the bones of Joseph with him, for he had straitly sworn the children of Israel, saying, God will surely remember you, and ye shall carry up my bones away hence with you. And they took their journey from Sukkot and encamped in Ethan in the edge of the wilderness. All right, before I go into the next portion of 21st verse, if they took their journey, where did they meet up at? They didn't leave straight from their house and going straight to Sukkot. They had met, as we read, in a place called Ramses. Hence, that's why one of the questions about the Pharaoh. We're going to have a meeting place. Why? Because we ain't going to just say, everybody break out and we'll meet you there later. That's not an organized nation. That's not even a nation. A nation moves as one. So before you move as one, we got to bring you from your own separate places. A congregation should move as one. So therefore, when people say, I can do my own service at home, I don't need to come on down there and congregate with the rest of the people. I'm not going to learn this much. I know more than them, or I don't want to see such and such. I can't stand such and such. I don't want them to destroy my shop, I thought. So I'm going to stay right here, in that area there. No. First thing is come out your comfort zone and get comfortable in unity and uniting for a common cause and a common good. So therefore, they leaving their house, which is their comfort zone, to come to a place, a meeting, a rallying point, and then we have purpose and goal in mind, and now we can move collectively together. And this is what it says. So now after we met, we first spotted Sukkot. Strange name. And then, and then says the edge of the wilderness, and 21st verse, and the Lord went before them by day in a pillar of cloud to lead them the way, and by night in a pillar of fire to give them light, that they may go by day and by night. The pillar of cloud by day and the pillar of fire by night. Depart not from before the people. What is so important is that it wasn't Moses that was leading them and kicking them out. That's why it emphasized it was the Lord. And they knew it was about God, that had that well-being in mind, and it was taking them out of Egypt at one point in time. Though he had a figurehead, Moses there, Aaron being a secondary figurehead. But you got them going there at that time. But letting you know, the book is clearly letting you know that it was God that did this. All right. So I just want to bring a couple more points here, quick as I can. It says in the 14th chapter, and the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak unto the children of Israel that they turn back and encamp before Pihahirot, between Migdol and the sea, before Baal-zephon, over against it shall ye encamp by the sea. And Pharaoh will say of the children of Israel, they are entangled in the land. The wilderness has shut them in, and I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and he shall follow after them, and I will get me honor upon Pharaoh and upon all his hosts, and the Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord." And they did so. Before I get into the 5th verse. All right. Well, let me just go to the 5th verse. "And it was told the king of Egypt that the people were fled, and the heart of Pharaoh and of his servants were turned towards the people. And they said, what is this we have done, that we have let Israel go from serving us?" All right. "And he made ready his chariot and took his people with him. And he took 600 chosen chariots and all the chariots of Egypt, and captains over all of them. And the Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and he pursued after the children of Israel, for the children of Israel went out with a high hand." No, you're going out too proud. That's number one. Also, it wasn't just Pharaoh's heart hard, it was the servant's heart hardened. You will see it clearly in Hebrew as you see it, go forward. The video can pick it up from here. So, and Pharaoh, obviously, according to this, really believed that these people are going to come back. He really believed they were going to come back. He didn't believe that there's a one-way trip. And took all that money. You got too much stuff with you. Gold and silver and everything like that. And clothes for a celebration. And they say, wonder who told them. Who brought the word back? Who was watching? This is something to think about as you go through discussion. But one of the things is that when they went forward into the, with a high hand, marching proud, clear passport, got wealth that I never had before, and looked upon as somebody prestigious, going to serve God. And we knew we were supposed to go to the land of milk and honey. But Pharaoh in his mind, you're only going to go a little bit and you're going to turn around. But then they said, look, these people they ain't looking like they're coming back at all. So, so it's not just enough to have empty houses left behind. I need somebody to fill those houses in that sense. So Pharaoh and the rest of them say, what have they done? And said, we got to let our servants go. And plus the money going too in that area. Now, another question I'd like to discuss further. Wasn't wouldn't have been enough that God, we say die, so wouldn't have been just enough to let us leave out and not have Pharaoh pursue? Say, okay, you took this loss. You stay right there. Accept it. And you move on in life. No, God said, no, I need to make it more impactful. So what would be the need for Pharaoh to pursue us when the accomplishment of letting the people go is already done? Why have Pharaoh say, oh, now I'm going to go back against that at that particular time? Even if he say, well, okay, that was in his heart. Would it really been necessary to have the Egyptians follow us just to slay him? That's a good question to talk about. In that sense, I'm just going to leave this here as a something to go forward on. Now, as we get at the hint, an idea is coming up in the next century. The purpose of God allowing them to pursue more than just what is stated here. So as you go into the next portion of Yithro, then you're going to find out that the purpose is greater than just, I'm hard this hard and make him come back so I can slay him. To make God's name known, he said that's the purpose of it. But how? And was it necessary to do it that way? And you're going to find it was a necessary act that had to be done. And as we get more into the next procedure of Yithro. So you could be discussing that and focusing on that as you go forward. But since when Pharaoh prepares his own ride, you got servants. You really said, I can't wait for my servant. I'm going to do this myself. I'm going to make a soldier's run myself. This is what we get right here when we talk about getting into the area of Pharaoh. Getting his own thing prepared. And they're talking about 600 chariots. That means that's the best chariots, chosen chariots. And then all the rest of the local chariots that's coming along, plus an army. Because now you're talking about, 3 million people. So you're going to need a lot to round them up. And plus livestock. So you saying that I'm going to rush this thing and take care of this here. And they're still in the land. So you have to add to the wilderness, but it didn't look like, and you had made a turn. So you went one direction and God make you turn back and you're still in the territory of Egypt, near their gods, near their idols. So let's make a landmark statement, which you could discuss about those particular idols amongst yourselves. And it says, the 9th verse, and the Egyptians pursued after them all the horses of the chariots of Pharaoh and his horsemen and his army, and they overtook them and camping by the sea, besides Pihah in front of Baal Zephon. That's one of the great idols. And when Pharaoh drew nigh, the children of Israel lifted up their eyes, and behold, the Egyptians were marching after them, and they were sore afraid. And the children of Israel cried out unto the Lord. And they said unto Moses, because there were no graves in Egypt, that has taken us away to die in the wilderness, wherefore hast thou dealt thus with us, to bring us forth out of Egypt? In other words, real estate is so high. So high, there's no space for us to die In Egypt, we like to die. We had to die here. I mean, who want to choose a place to say, well, if I got to die, I want to die over here? You know, that's where their mind were. And they said, you brought us out to die here. We rather had died in the land of Egypt, in our homeland. And yet the patriarchs died out the land, such as Jacob and the patriarchs of those 12 tribes died outside the land. Now we read where Moses brought the bones of Joseph, and Joseph made them swear and used the code word, God would take account of you. And that's the same word Moses used coming back, took account of you. So the same word Moses said in the last part of Genesis, it's the exact same word God said in meeting Moses, and also that's reflected here and reminded him that take my bones up out of here. So though he died there, he didn't want to rest there. He didn't want the bones to rest there. Jacob didn't want his bones to rest there, though he died there. There's always a thing about the rest of the patriarchs of the 12 tribes, of the other tribes. And so right after that, the 12th verse says, is it not this the word that we spoke unto thee in Egypt, saying, let us alone that we may serve the Egyptians, for it's better for us to serve the Egyptians than that we should die in the wilderness? We don't read that, but they're talking to Moses, so maybe, something might have came up. And say, and Moses said unto the people, but we read that the people believed Moses when he brought the signs. So if you read where they brought the signs and they believed them. Now where this is coming from? Point of a discussion. Fear ye not, stand still and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will work for you today. For whereas ye have seen the Egyptians today, you shall see them again no more forever. The Lord will fight for you, and you shall hold your peace. Then it goes on to about Moses' complaint. All right, so we find here that, and the Lord said unto Moses, wherefore criest thou unto me? Speak unto the children of Israel that they go forward, and lift thou up thy rod, and stretch out thy hand over the sea, and divide it. And the children of Israel shall go into the midst of the sea on dry ground. And I will behold, I will harden the hearts of the Egyptians, and they shall go in after them. And I will get me honor upon Pharaoh and upon all his hosts, upon his chariots, and upon his horsemen. And the Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord. When he had gotten me honor upon Pharaoh, when I have gotten me honor upon Pharaoh, upon his chariots, upon his horsemen, and the angel of God, who went before the camp of Israel, removed and went behind them, and the pillar of cloud removed from before them and stood behind them, and it came between the camps of the Egyptians of Egypt and the camp of Israel, and there was the cloud and the darkness. Here yet gave it light by night there, and the one came not near the other all the night. Now that's different. We talk about the darkness, cloud and darkness. Now, I mentioned last time, you had darkness that you couldn't even see light. You had darkness that people couldn't even move. This darkness, and we had darkness that was like a wall, in a sense, in the land of Goshen and the land, and the rest of the land of Egypt. And yet, this one, you say, okay, it was light from one side and darkness on the other side, and they couldn't come by one another. That means the Israelites couldn't go penetrate on their side, and the Egyptians couldn't penetrate on the other side. That is a phenomenal thing going on there, and there's a lot. And they're talking about the angel that was as well. So that's another area to think about and discuss. Because if God is doing this and leading, then what need of this angel? A whole other story to discuss going forward. So you could bring that up with your leaders and teachers going forward. And the 21st verse. And Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the Lord caused the sea to go back by a strong east wind all the night, and made the sea dry land, and the waters were divided. And the children went into the midst of the sea upon dry ground, and the waters were a wall unto them on their right hand and on their left. And the Egyptians pursued and went in after them into the midst of the sea, all Pharaoh's horses, his chariots, and his horsemen. And it came to pass in the morning, watch, that the Lord looked forth upon the host of the Egyptians through the pillar of fire and of cloud, and discomfited the host of the Egyptians. And he took off their chariot wheels and made them drive heavily, so that the Egyptians said, let us flee from the face of Israel, for the Lord fighteth for them against the Egyptians. He said, the Egyptians recognized that y'all can't beat us. And we know we could beat you physically. Hand to hand, mano to mano, we could handle that. But now it's something beyond our power that's, that we can't handle, that we know that this is God. And it ain't one of ours. It's just your God. Because he fighting against us. He ain't fighting with us. He fighting against us. And the thing is that normally, as I said often, if I see somebody run in some serious, dangerous area, and I'm in pursuit, and they get by, and I said, wow, how this guy get through there? And then see water standing out. Now, water is if you got a sea, and it's called the Sea of Reeds, and not necessarily, even though they translate it to Red Sea, but any body of water that will stand up and make and the ground be dry, you know how high that have to be? And then it's water. And you would say, okay, it's not ice, it's water. That means it's still functioning and operating like water. But yet it's still standing in place. But you still have movement because it's moving like water. Know what kind of faith it takes to travel in that? And then if you ran through that, because Moses told you to go, and there's a lot of midrash about who first jumped in, but I'm not focused on that part now. You could discuss that amongst yourselves. But once you get in an area like that, as far as I'm concerned, unless God tell me to go, I wouldn't be going after you. You got away. You got away. But that's how arrogant the Egyptians was until after they got in the midst. And you're going to say, okay, I can't use the chariot, but I'm not even thinking about, I don't even have time to unhitch the horses to try to ride out, because the horse could run faster than me. So I'm going on foot. Similar to when we read about the Haftorah, which is the longest Haftorah in this area. And then we find out later on that the water came back and drowned the Egyptians and stuff at that particular time, and washed them, washed them in the sea. And I'm going to go skip down to this is in the morning. So that means this. First, they tell you about the wind blowing all night and part. So what part of the morning actually did the Israelites went in? Because this here leaves a very mystical viewpoint when you think about the wind blew all night, Moses stretched out, the land is dry. So when did they take off? But it says by the morning watch. That's when the Egyptians started having problems. So how wide, where they went, all this stuff is something to think about as you go and read the story. It's not just as simple as I might make the readings seem. And And when we cover the chariot and the host of all right, it said, there remained not so much as one of them, but the children of Israel walked upon dry land in the midst of the sea, and the waters were a wall unto them on their right hand and on their left. Thus the Lord saved Israel that day out of the hand of the Egyptians. Israel saw the Egyptians dead upon the seashore, and Israel saw the great works which the Lord did upon the Egyptians. And the people feared the Lord, and they believed in the Lord and in his servant Moses. All right. So that was now they believe in the Lord after all this had happened. And now, if the Egyptians was smashed and drowned, where was their bodies washed ashore at? On their territory. Where? Near where Israelites were. So everybody could see and witness that these are the bodies of those Egyptians. So this is something to think about. We think about, they way across over there, and we way over here. And you're talking about 3 million people, even if you say 2 million people, that made it across with the mixed multitude and everything like that. How that many people, how can we see so far what's going on over there? When the chariots were stuck, only the bodies of the Egyptians were washed ashore. It don't even say about the horses. It just talks about the body of the Egyptians. That's a phenomenon in itself to think about. And then they sang a song. I'm getting to the song, then I'm gonna stop there and try to pick it up. Well, I might hit on a couple other areas right quick. And we'll go into it. We started singing the song. Of course, this Shabbat was called Shabbat Hashir, Shabbat Shirah, the Shabbat of song. And it's a couple of songs that's mentioned, the song of Miriam and the song of Deborah. So as we think about the song of that Moses sang, the song that Moses sang. Now in the 15th chapter is we read that every single day, those that follow a particular traditional reading in the morning prayers, we read that every single day, all year long, including all holy days, all the appointed times, we read this particular song. And what's interesting is that then Moses sang, and so a lot of times we wonder about, say, well, is it still a patriarchal thing again? Because we talk about the males being the firstborn, and redeeming those males. Here we have a song. We have a song that Moses led, and then they talk about like the men of Israel lead. So it's almost like a separation that we're seeing between men and women to a degree. And that's something to focus on. We'll see more like a separation, because out of all the 18 verses of song after Moses sang and the men sing, then you have in the 20th verse, and it says of the 15th chapter, and Miriam the prophetess, the sister of Aaron. Now this opening is strange. Miriam the prophetess, she has status. She's a spokesperson. She's the first time called a prophetess. She's the first prophetess in the nation of Israel. All right. And she's older than Aaron, and she have a title. But why say the sister of Aaron when we already know, that saying is she's her only identity is based on her being a sister of her younger brother Aaron. That's her identity. So you have this thing where it was seen that women might be secondary because she have rank, she have status, but the status predicates that that's Aaron's sister. Not even considered Moses. And took a timbrel in hand, and all the women went out after her with timbrels and with dances. And Miriam sang unto them, sing ye to the Lord, who is highly exalted. The horse and the rider have he thrown in the sea. That's the only lyrics. Sing ye to the Lord, for he is highly exalted. The horse and the rider have he thrown into the sea. That's the only lyrics. When we have a bunch of lyrics earlier, almost 18 verses of lyrics based on what the men sang, until Miriam upped it a bit with instruments and dance, and that's it. So is it a separation? Is it because it's patriarchal or what? This is something you always come up and bring a lot of discussions about. Should it be were we really egalitarian, or we really was just men do this over here and women do that over there? This brings up a lot of questions amongst the different branches of lack of a better word, Judaic culture in that sense. What was it about? Separation of men and women all the time, or just sometime? In the very beginning, they entered Canaan with all the souls they had gotten. So this is a whole nother area of discussion. I just want to bring that out as well, that she had instruments and she had dance and she enhanced it, but she's not given not even a whole pasuk, a whole verse in a talk. And I just want to go just a little bit more into the dynamics of this particular area here. All right, and then we got back from there, from the Yam Suf, the Red Sea, as I say, and they went out into the wilderness of Shur, still part of Egyptian territory, and they went 3 days in the wilderness and found no water. Why they supposed to go 3 days to sacrifice and worship God, but they go 3 days in the wilderness and no water? And when they came to Marah, they could not drink the water of Marah, for they were bitter. Therefore, the name of it was called Marah. Now, they just had a jubilation, just had a sing, just had a victory. And they know that God did it, and they believe in the Lord, and they believe in that. They witnessed great things, but it went 3 days already and out of water. All right, so what is miraculous is that you went through a body of water, you sing it in jubilation, and you still traveled in 3 days, and they say, and you're looking for water for 3 days. Ain't this a miracle that you could go that far and talk about, I'm still looking for water? It's a miracle that you could travel with your little ones and say, I'm still looking for water. But we don't see those things at the time. And it says, and we're going to call the place, and we murmur, and say in the 24th verse, and the people murmured against Moses and saying, what shall we drink? And he cried unto the Lord. All right. Because now you got babies, everybody crying now. So he cried unto the Lord. And the Lord showed him a tree, and he cast it into the water, and the waters were made sweet. All right. And there he made for them a statue and an ordinance, and there he proved them. And he said, if thou wilt diligently hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, and he will do that which is right, and will do that which is right in his eyes, and will give ear to his commandments, and keep all his statutes, I will put none of the disease upon thee, which I have put upon the Egyptians, for I am the Lord that healeth thee. And then it says, and there came to a land where there was 12 springs of water, and 70 palm trees, and they camped there by the waters. So after that, they witnessed great miracles while in Egypt. They witnessed the great miracle of crossing the Yam Suf. They witnessed that the bodies of the Egyptians come up. They sang a song. They believed. And they traveled 3 days already. And God said, I'm testing you. I'm testing you. Whether you're really okay with me or not. Now, the thing is that we had great things going against nature. When we think about the plagues, when we think about the water opening up, we think about the cloud and pillar of cloud separating, the Egyptian host from the Israelites. So we think about all those great phenomenal miracles that's done. And something as simple as taking a tree, a piece of wood, and throwing in some bitter water. You found water, but it's bitter. What wood gonna ever be sweet? That's one of the things you gotta ask. If the water is bitter, why is the wood how sweet could the wood be in the body of water? And you talk about people being satisfied with drink from that. So there's a lot of lessons to be learned and a lot of discussions to be held on reference to that. But the thing is that God didn't change the water. All right, the water still was a bitter water, and the wood is still a piece of wood. But He took what was there, and said that and developed what was there. In that sense, He didn't get rid of it. He developed what was there in the water, with the wood. We have similar things later on when we talk about in reference to the golden calf that we built later on. And Moses made you grind it up and then tell people to drink it. All right. If the calf is no good, why drink it? Why ingest it? In that area. When we talk about the fiery serpents that bit us in the wilderness, and why make a serpent of bronze to tell us to look at it when it's the very same thing that we're trying to get away from? So what is the subliminal message behind the bitter water that we're talking about? And you're taking just an ordinary piece of wood. Now the word etz could be tree or wood. But so I doubt Moses threw a whole piece of a tree in there. So a piece of wood. And what tree we know that has sweet wood? I mean, unless you figure we have some abnormal sugar cane that turned up into a tree. But to be satisfying to people that fast. But most wood is bitter. So He didn't take something different that was not bitter and made the bitter water sweet. It just transformed the concept. So it's a concept and a metaphor that's being brought here. And the last thing I want to bring out is about when we talk about food, and in this particular portion, the 16th chapter, and it says, and they took their journey from Elam, and all the congregation of the children of Israel came to the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elam and Sinai, in the 15th day of the second month after their departing out of the land of Egypt. And the whole congregation of the children of Israel murmured against Moses and against Aaron in the wilderness. And the children of Israel said unto them, would that we have died by the hand of the Lord in the land of Egypt, when we sat by the flesh pots, when we did eat bread to the full. For ye have brought us forth into this wilderness to kill this whole assembly with hunger. All right. So now that's exactly 30 days out. What are you eating for the 30 days? This is what you're saying. That you left Egypt with your dough on your backs and your kneading trough. But here it is, we get the first thing here. I'm going to skip down to this here. I want to bring out the fourth verse. Then the Lord said to Moses, behold, I will cause it to rain bread from heaven for you, and the people shall go out and gather a day's portion every day, that I may prove them whether they will walk in my law or not. And it shall come to pass on the 6th day, they shall be prepared that which they bring in, and it shall be twice as much as they gather daily. And Moses and Aaron said unto the children of Israel, at evening, then you shall know that the Lord hath brought you out from the land of Egypt. And in the morning, then you shall see the glory of the Lord, for that He hath heard your murmurs against the Lord. And what are we that you murmur against us? That we hear that again later on. And Moses said, this shall be, then the Lord shall give you in the evening flesh to eat, in the morning bread to the full, for the Lord heareth your murmurings, which ye murmur against him. And what is we that you murmur against? That we, your murmurings, are not against us, but against the Lord. And Moses said unto Aaron, say unto all the children of Israel, come now before the Lord, for ye have heard your murmurings. And it came to pass, as Aaron spoke unto the whole congregation of the children of Israel, that they looked towards the wilderness, and behold, the glory of the Lord appeared in the cloud. And the Lord spoke unto Moses, saying, I have heard the murmurs of the children of Israel. Speak unto them, saying, at dusk ye shall eat flesh, in the morning ye shall be filled with bread, and shall know that I am the Lord your God. And it came to pass at evening, and the quails came and covered the camp. So we know automatically that the quails came, at the camp, and covered. So they got quails is a bird that fly, but how do you catch them so easily? And you got one of the best leanest meats of birds, and said, and then it goes on and it says, and that morning there was a layer of dew round about the camp. The 14th verse. And when the layer of dew was going up before the face of the wilderness, a fine scale-like thing, fine as hoarfrost, on the ground. And when the children of Israel saw it, they said one another, what is it? And they knew not what it was. And the children of Israel said unto them, it is bread. And Moses said unto them, it is the bread which the Lord had given to you, you to eat. This is the thing which the Lord has commanded. Gather ye up it, every man according to his eating, and omer a head, according to the numbers of your persons, shall ye take it, every man for them that are in his tent. And the children of Israel did so, and gathered some more and some less. And when they did mete it out with an omer, he that gathered much had nothing over, and he that gathered little had no lack. They gathered every man according to his eating, and Moses said unto them, let no man leave until the morning. Notwithstanding, they hearkened not unto Moses, but some of them left of it until the morning, and it bred worms and rotted. And Moses was wroth with them, and they gathered it morning by morning, every man according to his eating. And as the sun waxed hot, it melted. And it came to pass that on the 6th day, they gathered twice as much bread, 2 omers for each. And all the rulers of the congregation came and told Moses, and he said unto them, this is that which the Lord had spoken. Tomorrow is a solemn rest, a holy Shabbat unto the Lord. Bake ye that which ye bake, and seethe that which ye seethe, and all that remaineth over lay up for you, to be kept until the morning. And they laid it up till the morning, as Moses bade, and did not rot, neither was there any worms therein. All right. And then it goes to institute the Shabbat. All right. So now I'm going to stop there before I get into the Shabbat more. But one of the things I like to bring out and highlight in this particular area concerning the Shabbat, prior to, we 30 days out, we got the date when manna first come down. That means that our supplies lasted 30 days. We read 40 years later, we never ate leavened bread, nothing spoilage. So that means that when we were left with the doughs on our back, the miracle for eating bread, unleavened bread during the week of CHOKMAH, is not just because we're told the memorial of it, but the miracle is that when we left with the dough on our back, how long it takes for dough to turn to leavening. We had 7 days out. And that's when it mentions about, and when we read it carefully, 7 days out, we still had manna, the dough, in our kneading troughs, when we read it carefully. So for 7 days, the dough was still never turned to leaven. That's a miracle in itself that we didn't pay attention to. And as we go down before, our supply line that we had, if we only had dough on our backs, lasted for a period of 30 days. And we started complaining. So it was the water issue that we had right away. But even that was a while before we had a water issue. How much water did we travel with? So when we think about all those things there, that we eat we eat unleavened bread during the week of a Chag HaMatzah, it's because of the miracle, more so of the dough not turning to leavening. That's what sustained us. And here, that is sustained us more than most of us tend to look at, for a period of almost a month, before we start really doing some real complaining. And then another miracle in that sense is that when we talk about how many Shabbats passed within a month, at least 4. All right, so you figure 3 of them had to pass already, at the minimum 2. But now we're told only at this point in time that not to defile the Shabbat. And we're told at this particular time to respect the holiness of the Shabbat. So when we talk about Pesach, the Shalosh Regalins, Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkot, and all the other days that's mentioned in Leviticus, the 23rd chapter, the appointed times of the Creator, and dealing with the Rosh Chodesh itself. The difference is we sanctify those particular times, but the Shabbat comes in where we're told not to defile it because it's already sanctified. So it's a difference when it comes to Shabbat compared to the other days that we observe within our way of life, is that it's already sanctified, it's already hallowed. So our rules and obedience is not to make it defiled. The other days we bring and able to contribute sanctification to those other days. So that's one of the most important things in looking at the Shabbat and dealing with manna, and that the bread itself is related to God sustaining us with some supernatural force. And the last thing I'd like to leave, and you could discuss it further, is that when you eat your meal, your dinner, what we consider Friday night, coming into Shabbat, technically, and I mentioned it before in the past, that you're actually eating, if it was manna, the 6th-day manna. The 7th-day manna is not eaten to that morning because you had manna collected for each day. So that means eat in the morning and eat in the evening, twice a day. So if you're eating manna in the evening, your Friday night meal is actually for Friday, if it was manna. When you wake up in the morning, then you begin to eat from the manna for Shabbat. And after Shabbat is over, pretty much coming to an end, then you actually eating the final part of that double portion of that manna after Shabbat is going out. So that is only when you really have the Shabbat meal. So that last meal you ate directly after Shabbat's coming out, that main dinner, that is actually a Shabbat meal, not Sunday's meal. Sunday meal, we haven't made a collection yet. We go out next morning and collect the first day of the week meal, in the Omer. So that's very important, because a lot of times I'm having my Shabbat meal. Okay, we understand what you're trying to say, but is it accurate in relationship to what we read here? And so to know about the sanctity of the day, and that's why I said we fix it, yes, on the 6th day. We fix that meal on the 6th day because that morning we already have to eat it. But what we fix on the 6th day, we still got to finish the 6th-day amount of manna. And then we go into that 7th-day manna. So that's an important lesson to learn from there, besides a whole bunch of other lessons. So with that, I hope you guys understand what I said. Any mistakes from my own? I know I've been a little bit loquacious this time, but leave any questions in the comments and chat, and I'll try to address them the best I can. All right. So Shabbat Shalom Aleichem and Shabbat Shalom.
Hallelujah. Torah about Nasik. Thank you all for joining us once again. Praying that the Most High God will continue to bless each and every one of you. And everyone have a good Shabbat night sleep. And hopefully we'll see us all in the AM. Shalom, shalom. Hallelujah.
Sure.
Let's get knowledge, wisdom, understanding. We'll do our standing. All praises to the Most High, His laws and commandments. The CHOKMAH BINAH here to push it through your speakers. Judgment, truth, and love should be coming from the leaders. Yeah, knowledge, wisdom, understanding. We'll do our standing. All praises to the Most High, His laws and commandments. The CHOKMAH BINAH here to push it through your speakers. Judgment, truth, and love should be coming from the